The rain fell softly on Tokyo that evening, a delicate mist blanketing the glowing signs of Shinjuku. Inside an aging theater tucked between two high-rises, Aiko Tanaka clutched a letter in her hand, trembling with excitement. She had done it. After 5 years of minor roles and endless auditions, she had finally been chosen to play the lead in a classic revival of Kuchisake Onna, a tragic tale rooted in old Japanese ghost legends. It wasn't just any role, it was the role. The one whispered about in backstage halls. The one few actresses ever completed. The producer had smiled gently as he handed her the script. "Take care of yourself during rehearsals," he had said. Odd thing to say. Aiko didn't care. She wanted this. She needed this. The ghost of Kuchisake Onna, a wronged woman, betrayed and disfigured, was her chance to prove herself. As she stepped onto the old stage for the first time, a chill ran through her spine. Not from fear, but from something else, something watching. The theater was almost empty, just the crew and a few cast members, but Aiko could swear she heard faint footsteps echoing in the catwalks above. She paused, listening, but everyone else seemed unfazed. Maybe it was just her nerves. The director's voice snapped her back. "Places. Let's begin scene 1. Her cue approached quickly. Aiko stood alone under the spotlight, the stage around her wrapped in darkness. Her lines came easily, her presence strong, her voice firm. Yet something about the silence of the empty seats unsettled her. There was no applause, no feedback, just a feeling, like the audience was holding its breath. After rehearsal, she lingered behind, practicing her monologue once more. That's when she saw it. In the reflection of the dressing room mirror, just over her shoulder, stood a figure. Pale, long-haired, dressed in white. Its head tilted slightly, face obscured by shadow. She spun around. No one. The hallway was empty. The door had remained closed. She laughed nervously. "Okay, Aiko, calm down. It's just day 1. But as she turned back to the mirror, the figure was no longer there. The next few days of rehearsal passed in a blur of memorized lines and choreography. Aiko kept her focus sharp, pushing aside that first strange encounter in the dressing room mirror. It had to be her imagination. Stress, maybe. Her nerves playing tricks. But by the end of the first week, she began to notice things. Little things. A prop she had carefully placed on the table backstage would suddenly be on the floor. Her stage costume, pristine and pressed each morning, appeared slightly crumpled and damp when she retrieved it from the rack. The scent of incense would occasionally drift through the air when no one was burning any. And always that feeling of being watched. Never during the crowded rehearsals, only when she was alone. One night, while rehearsing her solo monologue alone on stage, the overhead lights flickered briefly. She paused, looked up, and saw it again. Just beyond the stage wings, a flash of white fabric disappearing into the dark. "A stagehand?" she asked aloud, her voice trembling slightly. No answer. She went backstage to check, but the space was empty. Her footsteps echoed through the narrow hallway leading to the dressing rooms. As she passed by a full-length mirror leaning against the wall, she saw herself, and something behind her. The figure again. This time closer. Clearer. Long black hair hung down over a white kimono. Her face still shrouded in shadow, except for her mouth, just visible, slightly open, as if about to speak. Aiko spun around. Nothing. She turned back to the mirror. The reflection now showed only herself. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her dreams were fragmented and restless. She saw herself on stage, but the audience was a sea of faceless figures. She delivered her lines, but the voice that came from her mouth wasn't her own. It was deeper. Hollow. Like it came from a well. The next morning, the director commented on her performance. "You're really capturing the spirit of the role," he said, half impressed, half concerned. "Almost too well." Aiko didn't respond. Her eyes drifted toward the back of the empty theater, where she thought she saw a flash of white again, just for a moment, before it vanished into the shadows. She was beginning to wonder. Was she still acting? Or was something acting through her? It was a stormy afternoon when Aiko finally gave in to her growing unease. The visions, the whispers, the strange sensations, she could no longer pretend they were just fatigue. Something was wrong. And if she was going to survive this performance, she needed answers. After rehearsal, she approached an older stagehand named Hiroshi. He had worked at the theater for over 30 years, and though his job mostly involved lighting and equipment, Aiko had always sensed he knew more than he let on. "Can I ask you something?" she began, her voice low. "About this play. Kuchisake Onna, has anyone ever said it's cursed?" Hiroshi didn't answer at first. He glanced toward the dark corners of the theater as if weighing whether the shadows were listening. Then he nodded, slowly. "You're not the first," he said. "To see her." Aiko felt a chill crawl down her back. He gestured for her to sit with him in the back row, far from the stage. This play was first performed here in 1978. It was an original production, inspired by the urban legend. The lead actress back then, her name was Emi Nakamura. Brilliant. Young. A star in the making. People said she didn't just play the spirit, she became her. Aiko leaned in. She vanished, Hiroshi continued. 2 weeks before opening night. Left no note. No trace. Just disappeared. Was she ever found? Aiko asked. No, Hiroshi said softly. But others claim they saw her. Wandering the stage late at night. Still in costume. Still rehearsing her lines. Aiko's stomach twisted. Since then, he went on, every time this play is revived, strange things happen. Props move. Lights fail. One actress even broke down mid-performance, screaming that someone was standing behind the curtain. No one was there. She quit the next day. Aiko sat in silence. It wasn't just her. There was a history. A pattern. Why do they keep bringing it back? She whispered. Because it sells, Hiroshi replied, bitterly. People love ghosts, even if it means making more. That night, Aiko stayed late again, alone. She walked the stage quietly, staring out at the empty seats. What do you want from me? She asked the darkness. And from somewhere above, faintly, a voice whispered. Finish what I started. The line between Aiko and the spirit she was portraying was beginning to dissolve. She no longer needed to rehearse. The lines came to her effortlessly, whispered into her dreams, etched into her waking thoughts. At times, she didn't even remember speaking them aloud, but others said she did. They'd praise her haunting delivery, her chilling presence on stage. You're incredible, her co-star remarked after a particularly intense scene. You scared the hell out of me. Your voice, it didn't even sound like you. Aiko forced a smile. She hadn't remembered the scene at all. That night, she stood before her mirror in the dressing room, dressed in full costume, the flowing white kimono, the pale makeup, the long black wig. She stared at her reflection, but something was off. Her lips didn't move, yet the reflection smiled. She gasped and stumbled back, but the mirror remained unchanged. Her own face stared back now, pale and shaken. Her breath caught in her throat. She was losing her grip. In desperation, she visited an old shrine tucked away behind the city's modern facades, a place her grandmother once brought her as a child. The shrine maiden was kind but solemn, and when Aiko explained what was happening, the woman listened in silence. You've opened a door, she said finally. And something old, something unfinished has stepped through. The spirit you portray, Kuchisake Onna, she is not just a story. She is a memory. A grudge left behind. A shadow looking for voice and body. Can I stop it? Aiko whispered. The shrine maiden handed her a charm and warned, if you let her in too deeply, she won't leave quietly. You must remember who you are. On that stage, you are not her. No matter how real she feels. But it was already too late. At the next rehearsal, Aiko arrived early and sat alone in the wings. The lights were dim. The theater, still. Then she heard humming, a soft, broken lullaby echoing through the rafters. She rose and followed the sound up the backstage stairs. And there, in the shadows behind the curtain, she saw her again. The spirit. Fully formed. Pale. Bloody mouth twisted in sorrow. Arms hanging limply at her sides. Aiko froze. The ghost didn't move, but she smiled. And in a voice that mirrored Aiko's perfectly, she whispered, "You don't need to act anymore." Opening night was just 3 days away. But it felt like the performance had already begun. Aiko no longer recognized her own voice. It was colder now, measured, distant. Her reflection rarely moved with her. Sometimes it lingered a moment too long, lips whispering silent words after hers had stopped. She had stopped questioning it. The fear had calcified into numb acceptance. The cast noticed, too. "She's not acting anymore," one whispered. "She is the ghost now," another said. On the day of the final rehearsal, the director insisted on running the entire show without stopping. Full dress. Full lights. "Treat it like a real performance," he announced. But even he looked nervous. The theater was quiet. The seats empty but somehow expectant. As the curtain rose, Aiko stood center stage, bathed in cold, white light. Her costume draped over her body like a burial shroud. Her eyes unfocused. Her hands limp at her sides. The scene began. She walked slowly across the stage, barefoot, her footsteps echoing through the silent hall. Her co-star delivered his lines, but Aiko barely seemed to hear him. Then, as she reached the middle of the stage, her solo monologue began. A hush fell over the room. She raised her head. "I was beautiful, once," she began, her voice hollow, distant. "But beauty invites envy. And envy brings knives." The room darkened slightly, unplanned. A chill spread across the floor. The lighting crew later swore they had changed nothing. Aiko's eyes glazed over as she continued, and her voice shifted, no longer hers, but layered, like two voices speaking in perfect sync. "They split my face, and thought I would disappear. But I remained. In every whisper. Every mirror. Every role." One of the stagehands stumbled back from the curtain, swearing he saw someone standing behind Aiko, a second figure, flickering like static, dressed in the same white kimono. Gasps echoed backstage. But the director didn't call cut. They couldn't look away. Aiko turned slowly to the audience, though the seats were empty. "Tell me," she whispered. "Am I still beautiful?" At that moment, every light in the theater went out. Complete darkness. A scream rang out, not from the actors, but from someone in the control booth. The emergency lights flickered on. The stage was empty. Aiko was gone. Her costume lay on the floor. And in the reflection of the stage's polished backdrop, someone, something, still stood center stage, smiling. In the days that followed, the theater remained closed. The official report stated that a technical malfunction had caused the lights to fail during rehearsal, and that Aiko Tanaka, the lead actress, had suffered a nervous breakdown and disappeared shortly after. Police searched her apartment, her usual walking routes, and even the grounds of the old shrine she'd visited. But there was no sign of her. Only her script remained, left neatly folded atop her dressing room mirror. Every line highlighted. Every note underlined. The last page torn out. But backstage, the whispers continued. The crew refused to work after sunset. The director resigned without comment. Several cast members began reporting nightmares, visions of Aiko in costume, standing at the foot of their beds, silently mouthing her final line. "Am I still beautiful?" The production was cancelled. Permanently. Yet the legend grew. A few months later, a new acting troupe leased the theater. Young, ambitious, unaware of its reputation. One night, During a routine walkthrough, one of the producers noticed something strange on the stage: a white kimono folded neatly over a chair. No one claimed it. They dismissed it as a prank. But the next evening, during auditions, a woman arrived early. Pale skin. Long black hair. Quiet. Polite. She said her name was Emi Nakamura, an odd coincidence, considering that was the same name of the actress who vanished in 1978. She auditioned for the role of Kuchisake Onna. And her performance? Unforgettable. The producer leaned toward a colleague afterward and whispered, "She doesn't even need makeup. She is the part." The lights flickered. In the darkness, someone clapped once, slowly, deliberately. When the lights returned, the stage was empty again. Only a mirror remained, center stage, and on its surface, a pale handprint.